Canada. I've been watching what's been going on in Canada very, very closely. We are now in day 25. Yes, it's 25 days ago that the truckers got ready to send their convoy off to Ottawa. And it isn't just there. There's a bridge blocked with America. There are protests in other Canadian cities. And from the start, these protesters have been branded by the government in Canada as white supremacists, far-right extremists. Every pejorative term you can think of has been thrown at these people. Even talk today that a lorry was stopped at the border that had guns in it. So every attempt has been made to demonise these people. And yet I've sensed over the last couple of weeks that actually Trudeau is beginning to lose. Because actually, from what I can see of it, the truckers, their supporters, have in the main behaved incredibly well. Certainly incredibly well compared to, let's say, Black Lives Matter protests in 2020. And I guess in a country like Canada, or perhaps even Israel, which has now got its own convoy of truckers, I guess when you look at the United Kingdom, you look at Denmark, and you see that basically all restrictions have been removed, that people are being allowed to exercise their own common sense. It perhaps, as a protester, makes you even more determined to say, well, it is my own freedom of choice to decide whether to get vaccinated or not. And so what Trudeau has done in the last 24 hours is to invoke the Emergency Act. It was a piece of legislation originally brought in during the war, updated in the 1980s. And it gives considerable powers. Indeed, Trudeau's deputy has said they now intend to freeze truckers' personal and corporate bank accounts, suspend the insurance on their trucks, and tow their vehicles away. So the Canadian government getting very, very heavy. And I just begin to think maybe this is a sign of them losing. Now, we have had various commentators and journalists on this over the last couple of weeks, but joining me from Canada tonight is Pastor Henry Hildebrandt, and he's led a large delegation to Ottawa, and in fact, you've been holding Sunday church services there on top of one of the trucks. So this is the first time we've heard directly from somebody engaged in the protest. Pastor, good evening, UK time, and welcome.
Good evening, Nigel. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, the government getting really heavy. In fact, I mean, he has said he's not going to send the army in, but he's invoked this Emergencies Act, dire threats, financial threats against those who are taking part in this protest. How has that been taken today by the truckers and their supporters?
It is not taken well at all. We had some good news here. Just here, it said that the Canadian Civil Liberties Association condemns the action of Mr. Trudeau that he did yesterday. So that is a very encouraging thing here right now. And it's like you said, it's absolutely not received well by the truckers at all, what he did yesterday, because there was no necessity for it whatsoever.
Does this mean that actually the truckers will now melt away because of these financial threats?
They will not melt away, because it seems like in the last days, the more the Prime Minister threats, and really they are threats because he's known for that, the more he threats and he calls this just a small fringe minority and says they are white supremacists, and on and on and on and on. And everybody sees in the pictures, everybody clearly that has been here knows it's the exact opposite. No, it does not help to melt away the truckers. It just confirms their stand more that we are under a tyrannical oppression here, and that it needs to stop.
And how was it, Henry? How was it preaching in freezing cold temperatures from the top of a truck?
It's not the usual standing behind the pulpit in your little meeting house. But you know what? We have for years and years prayed for a revival, and we have prayed for an awakening in Canada, and we welcome it. I say this is it. And it's like the truckers helped us and pushed us over the edge and brought us to a new level that we desperately needed. And for me, it was a tremendous privilege to stand with a black preacher from Quebec and him translating for me into French, I mean, that defied every doctrine of white supremacy here on the ground.
It did. And finally, Henry, do you actually think you're going to win this battle against vaccine mandates?
So the thing is, Nigel, here we are dealing with, as you saw, the truckers, just when they started to head this way, it was a truckers convoy, but long before they got to Ottawa, you saw what happened to the Canadian people. They lined the bridges and overpasses. So this now resonates with the whole wide world. Every oppressed person now, past and present and future, feels that this message resonates with them, that we are resisting oppression. So it goes far beyond the mandates, but it does include the mandates.
Well, it's going to be very interesting. And as I'm sure you know, we have won a bit of a battle here in this country against the vaccine mandate for staff working for the National Health Service, which was supposed to come in on the 1st of April, and that has now been suspended. So I think the worm is turning on this. And Henry, I want to say a huge thank you for joining us this evening, and stay warm. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nigel.
Indeed.